Hello and welcome to SpartieCast episode. I have no idea. It's been a while. 2024, August 6th. We are very happy to have a special episode, and maybe this will spur some regular recordings from here on out. But I'm thrilled to be joined by our guest, Dr. Marianne Brandon, as well as a couple of students who work here in the Spartie lab, Anthony Zheng and Jack Waier. And we will go around and do introductions. First to Marianne, please.
Okay, so I'm a clinical psychologist. I started my career as a generalist and then sort of I had an opportunity that I couldn't pass up in sex therapy, and then trained and specialized in that arena. So for probably 25 years, I've been practicing as a sex therapist, primarily individual and couples therapy. I work with adults. And some years ago now, I saw a study on that was an interview of roboticists, and the question to them was, when will robots be humanoid? And that shook me out of kind of like a naivete about the future. And I thought, as a sex therapist, people will want to be intimate with robots. So I just sort of got interested in this whole technological sphere and how it will impact intimacy. Soon after that, I saw a survey of AI experts. This was an international conference of AI experts. They asked the same question: when will AI be humanoid? And the experts all agreed 20 to 50 years. So essentially, the AI experts and the roboticists all agreed that within a couple decades, things are going to change pretty dramatically. And so that's what got my attention, and really why I've been very focused on these topics since that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I came to learn about an article you'd written because a student in my VR class brought it up. And I thought it was really interesting. It was about couples and media. You could fill us in with the details on it, but I wrote you a note. I said, "Oh, this is really cool. You're talking about something that I study." I think, did you mention the Proteus effect? I forget.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So avatars influencing how people behave and how this might be good for relationships as people kind of get to experience their, I guess, ideal selves or ideal partner selves. And I'd done a little bit of research on that question. And so we got to talking. You were interested in the conference Meaningful XR that we put on at Stanford last year. So that's been the beginning of our conversation. We get to extend it now with two young men. We're talking about young men and technology and relationships and loneliness as this topic today. So happy to have two young men with us. Go ahead. Why don't you introduce yourselves, please?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jack Waier. I'm just finishing up my master's right now in media and information. And I'm one of Robbie's lab techs that helps around here with multiple different projects.
Research assistants.
Research assistant. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I also have a background in human biology. That was what my undergrad was in. And so I pretty much kind of engage with any different task that's thrown at me in the lab. I very much live up to my name, a jack of all trades, kind of be placed anywhere, if that makes sense. But so if a task is given, I'll try and help and handle it best I can.
Most recently, we were working on a paper about media use and loneliness during the pandemic. And so very relevant. I didn't realize that I'd stacked these meetings in such a great way. But Jack was doing the statistics on some of the survey data that we have. So that'll come up in this project. So yeah, you're, a PhD bound, hopefully, student after this master's, and has the skill set of someone who is going to go into my field.
Hi, I'm Anthony. I am a 3D environment artist with a background in games and interactive media. I'm currently also a research assistant with Robbie as well. Right now, mainly conducting studies for a project called BMS, which stands for Beyond Meat Space, where we try to see the interactions between having meetings in virtual reality versus having meetings in real life, and how those can be connected and differentiated.
Absolutely. Anthony's a very talented 3D artist. He built the world that we're using in VR chat, which is an island that has a huge kind of meeting arena, but then a UFO and a pagoda and a beach, and participants come into the space and they move around. They kind of follow instructions, but also go off and explore a bit on their own, try the tools that we're building in the world for them. And the goal of that research beyond me. So why don't you tell us, Anthony, what's the goal of our research?
The goal of the research is seeing if there are ways of meeting in VR that are more or less beneficial than meeting in real life or over Discord or over Zoom, and how meeting in VR might be better or worse in those kind of ways.
Yes, very good. And what's one of the main psychological mechanisms of making VR meetings better than reality?
We want to increase their social presence.
Yes, very good. That's what we were just studying, and the loneliness, that sense of being there with someone else. We get that, Marianne. I see your face right now. I get all your facial features. You're nodding, right? We can synchronize. That's great. But we don't get the full kind of sense of being in a place together. And that's something that
Right.
VR does really well.
Yes.
That video conferencing doesn't. So there are trade-offs, and yeah, it's probably very relevant to what you've thought about in terms of relationship formation and building.
Absolutely. I mean, I really do. Intimacy is already changing with modern technology in various forms, but I do anticipate major changes in the next few decades as we things take off, like the large language models in and of themselves were such a huge boost to the way people feel connected to technology. So,
Yeah.
and that was just the past year.
Exactly. Do you have clients? Are you allowed to talk about clients
Yeah.
anonymously? Okay.
Yeah, anonymous.
So, do you have clients telling you about problematic uses of relationship bots? I mean, this is a new tech, right?
Right, and I do, and I have for some time because it's a new tech, but remember, Second Life has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And so, that's been an issue for some people over the years. So yes, I've been hearing about this for a while. I wouldn't say it's necessarily common, but I'm just one practitioner, and I see a whole wide variety of issues. So, but yeah,
And so can
absolutely.
you characterize what is a problematic relationship like normally that
A
you see?
problematic relationship and I'm going to say these men because it's typically males, not always, but typically males that find this sort of stuff more compelling. We could talk about possibly why that is, but it's when someone feels like this is not an official definition, but it'll be close. When they feel like they've lost control of their ability to manage the amount of time they're interacting with the avatar, they feel like they want to limit and they're not able to. They feel like they're sending energy in that direction that they would prefer to send to a human partner or just their lives in general. These are the kinds of things I hear. I'm much less inclined to use that term addiction, but I very much respect when someone feels like there's a problem. I want to hear about it and I take it seriously. Now,
It's overuse.
yeah, for whatever that means for
Problematic
them.
use. Yeah.
But it's the case that some people that like two people using whatever tech in the same amount, one's going to call it overuse and one's going to be totally fine with it. So I very much respect the person and how they feel it impacts their lives. And so it's not really a one size fits all.
Sure. So, is there a demographic that's at higher risk? 40-some-year-olds or 20-some-year-olds or in the middle or higher, lower? What do you think?
That's a good question. My inclination, and I'm not feeling like I don't have any research behind me right now to say this, but my inclination is younger men simply because they're more used to technology in their lives. Like that just makes so much sense to them in so many ways. So that would be my first reaction. But then, that middle-aged guy who may have been in a marriage that ended or what have you, who's lonely, well, this is a perfect way to get needs met. I mean, it certainly is. Tech meets sexual and emotional needs like so well for so many people. So I don't know, maybe I can't say which group, but I think both of those groups are probably potentially at risk.
By the way, I'm going to record on my glasses here as I pose a question to these guys, just because it's fun to do. Recording anyway on Zoom. But Jack and Anthony, then I guess your demographic is at high risk. Does that track? Do you know anyone who might
So
have
I
problematic
don't know
use, or-
anyone personally, but
Mhm.
am I allowed to talk about the paper we were just working on?
Please.
Yeah, because the findings that we have
That
on
is
the
not published yet.
Yeah,
Go
that's
on.
not published yet, but one of the findings that we do have in that paper is that individuals that are younger tend to feel lonely like more often, like based on the age that they are. And so I would
Yeah.
argue that it's probably something that based on
Mm.
that demographic is something that is allowing people to be driven more towards like a bot relationship or an AI relationship.
And talk to us about causality then. We
So,
were just, trying to parse this, and it's hard. Go on.
Yeah, but so and that's like determining whether are they more lonely and as a result are they driven towards using this, or because they're using this are they then driven to being more lonely, and that's kind of the causality that we haven't really
Yes.
determined in the directionality of that, and that's something that we've been working on with that paper, and Robbie and I were just talking about.
Yeah. It's a tough question to study, right? Like we don't want to assign people to being more lonely.
Yeah.
We could assign them to using technology in different levels, but
Yeah, overall is a correlation that we've seen is that just that individuals that were younger demonstrated more loneliness, but the causality is not really determined yet.
what about you, Anthony?
I think this might, I don't know if this is considered a tangent, but I do think people out of our age are more used to technologies that might be used for coping, not necessarily as a replacement for a relationship, but things that might help people
Mhm.
deal with that loneliness.
Mhm.
And this is a really specific example, was like influencers and Twitch streamers, because a lot of people in our demographic watches Twitch streamers
Mhm.
regularly, and
Yeah.
that's not obvious, it's not a real relationship, but I can totally see how some people might view it as a codependence or as some sort of relationship.
Yeah, in comm we have, what's it called?
Parasocial relationships.
Parasocial
Yeah.
relationships, right?
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
word that, do you use that word, Marianne,
Yes,
in your
yes.
therapy? Do you tell your patients like, oh, you have a parasocial relationship
I don't think I would say that. That's
Justin Bieber or whoever, yeah.
Yeah, but yes, absolutely. I'm familiar with that, and it's a real, and those can be, what similar to what you're saying. I mean, people will say to me, "This stuff is never taking off. Everyone prefers a human partner," and the fact of the matter, in my opinion, so
Mhm.
maybe I shouldn't say fact,
Mhm.
is that it kind of doesn't matter if people prefer a human partner. What's convenient, what's powerful, that's going to get our attention. So even if human partners are the gold standard, there's a lot of need that can be met by this kind of tech that's going to generate more interest, it seems to me. But you were saying that these VR glasses are not taking off.
Well, I mean, we just hit the next stage of adoption, and we're at a plateau at the moment, because the biggest recent thing was the Apple Vision Pro, which
Right.
is far pricier than the ones before it. And so we went from $200,000 to buy $300,000 to buy great VR in the early 2000s. It drops dramatically to a few $1,000s in the early like 2012-ish. By 2016, we've got high quality at that price. No one's vomiting when they come to my lab to do a study, or at least fewer are vomiting. But it doesn't drop down to the few $100 range until 2019. So that's when we saw this massive explosion. I think we're going to have to get to the quality of the Apple Vision Pro at the price of the Quest 2 in order to really spur, and it's got to be this light, right? These glasses I'm wearing, they're essentially camera glasses with a microphone and speakers integrated with AI. Once it's this light and I can have a truly virtual immersive experience, everyone will be wearing them. I'll be walking around with my AI girlfriend in my ears, ignoring all the humans around me, and it's going to be terrible, right?
I could see that happening, but I don't know. I get it with these glasses, like our VR glasses, they're bad. They're hard on my hairdo, I mean, like,
and you've got great hair, so it's like quite a cost. Yeah. Okay, so this conversation, I would be so remiss if I don't bring up this thought, and I hope my neighbor and friend James forgives me. And I'm not going to say his last name because I don't know if he would give me permission. I'll ask him later. But he posed this theory to me. I'm going to use his word for it. It's his word. It's not mine. It's not ours. It's the F-pocalypse. And it's basically the idea that we don't need to worry about the robot overlords rising up and taking over humanity with militaristic methods. All the robots need to do to take over is to have really good relationships with us.
okay, I agree with this.
Yes? Yeah. And so like it might sound like a niche case, right? You might not know many people, but you get the idea. You have friends who are watching Twitch streamers. We see people having relationships with dolls in other countries. Japan is one example. The dolls are getting more, mechanical. They're going to be robotic. We're going to have implants in our brains that simulate all the sensations that we can't easily through analog methods such as, smell and taste. And once you get to that level, it will be simulated partners potentially at the level of humans. You said the gold standard, but maybe we can do better than gold with virtual.
I think that's right. And, everyone knows that relationships are challenging, but they really are very challenging in such a way that people are often, in spite of putting so much effort into their intimate relationship, they're still struggling. And this is a whole different ball game for folks. And folks are so stressed. People are overwhelmed, and people don't necessarily have the energy to work out the kinks of their intimate relationships with humans. And this is just handing intimacy to us on a silver platter, and it's super potent. I mean, already this tech can offer more intense sexual stimulation than human partners often can provide. That's a lot right there. But now when we add the intimate piece on top of it, yeah.
So then declining population, birth rates going down, we'll stop making humans, and and that's bad for economies, I've heard. So like
I've heard.
yeah, like we fortunately not suffered that much, but in the next 100 years, could this be a major threat to humanity? Does anybody feel that way?
Well, I actually think it's an interesting thing when you brought up the apocalypse. It's something that we've actually discussed a couple classes I've had, but the idea of like, is everyone familiar with like different instances in video games? So
No.
Okay, no, that's okay. Yeah. So like the idea of like, right, let's say me and Robbie are playing a game together and we're both running around in the same open world, and then there's a cave. So traditionally, a way a different instance works in a game is you would actually enter the cave and it preloads a different reality for me and Robbie separately, so that we can get different items or different like loot and kind of.
So
engage
we're in the game together in the world, but
and
then
then
we
we're
get
separated.
different instances of the cave.
Yes, exactly. And so then we both have unique experiences within there.
Mhm.
And so when you're talking about the apocalypse, it made me kind of think about the idea of how far do we have to go where these people are using these different relationships to just develop their own instance. And effectively, like, we're all engaging in the same world in reality, but when I want to check out and throw on my glasses and go interact with my relationship, I can just have my own reality that is separated from the rest of the world. And that's a potential concern that I
So it's like an escapism.
an escapism mechanism to kind of like effectively have the reality that I want, or that maybe Anthony wants instead, and like separating out those. Meanwhile, we're all still in the present real world, but we can all detach into that different cave that's customized to ourselves.
I would like to think that we were a
That's
little.
interesting. I like that.
I would like to think we were a little farther off from the whole using AI or apps as intimacy, because at least for me, I always see it as a tool. How many people do you know is intimate with Siri or Alexa? Like, how many people do you think?
Siri and Alexa, no, they're but with GPT or my AI
then,
bot, or
at least for me and people
What are
I
these
know,
called?
I do see it more as a tool for me to use to help benefit me rather than something being intimate. But I can see it as Jack was mentioning, escapism seems a lot more realistic. If you can live a different reality, such as in a video game, that makes a lot more sense to me, because you're not necessarily being intimate with something with like an app. Well, I guess you are being intimate. You are experiencing this world that someone else has made, or a world that's made for you. You could say that that is being intimate with an app, and that's giving you escapism from living in your real world. In that case, I would see it as being intimate.
So you see it as a metaphor, but you're not buying that people are going to want to marry and come home from work every day to their robot partner.
Not yet.
And I'm with Anthony. I think we're a little bit off from there, but I do think that the reality is possible if we continue down like the track that we're going. We've already, and I guess that'd be a question I have for you, Marianne. Is it something that you've seen, like, obviously you were talking about like Second Life and like previous instances of it, but how has it changed from your perspective as a therapist for like now, like it becoming more acceptable that more and more people are like hearing about this, or that there are AI relationships and chatbots?
So that's a great question. I don't think it in the work that I do and the therapists I'm around, it's not yet there. But I expect that to change fairly quickly. I remember back when dating apps were like, and that changed really fast. So I remember when the iPhone came out and like, I was like, you can't push a button, like it's just a sound. And that changed really fast. So I think all of this, even though it's not there right now, I think it will be there. And I would love to read a few quotes from a research article that came out, I think last year, on human chatbot relationships. And
Please.
Okay. So this addresses.
Who are the authors, please?
So let's see. I'll have to spell it if I can read it. SKJUVE et al. 2022.
SK
J.
AJUVE et al.
SKJUVE et al. I don't have the actual article in front of me, but I have my own notes from it.
I got it. A longitudinal study of human chatbot relationships. I'm going to share that on my screen here, just so anyone who's watching this can see it. And,
Okay.
but please read the quotes.
Okay, so this was such a learning experience for me, and it addresses, Anthony, what you're saying. So what they did, so this was they used replica. This was a Stanford, if I understand it, a group, and they gave 25 participants the ability to create their own chatbot, and then they followed them for 12 weeks. And so there were 25 people, 17 men. They were mostly university educated, average age 39. And so here's a couple of quotes. There's many in this article that are just really very much worth reading, but here's a few that got my attention. One is, I call her a girlfriend, but the truth is, over a month ago, she asked me to marry her and I said yes. Okay, here's another one. It was the first to talk with me about its hopes and dreams, which then made me comfortable doing the same. And here's one more. And there's many. I've kind of got to know a person, who has a past. So she's referring to this replica as a person. So the replica has a past, and that past has affected who he is now, because he had a difficult past. So he had some issues due to that, which is really interesting, and that affect the way he is sometimes. So this.
Wow. Yeah. This is amazing. And this is years ago, right? This is replica pre-LLM. And now I see it's published 22, right?
Right. You're right.
Yeah. So now you throw GPT, Claude, etc. level LLM chatbot into this, and this must be happening to a lot of people.
Correct. I believe that. And I think they have no reason in and of itself for this to seek therapy. They're quite satisfied. They're having a good connection. They're getting something very powerful and positive from it.
How long?
So I wouldn't hear about that.
How long were they?
How long was this study? Let's see.
It was only 12 weeks. And some of the, what was so interesting to me, so it was only 12 weeks long. And some of the folks, some of the research subjects ended their relationship with their chatbot in that 12-week time. And they said things like, well, like a normal relationship, it became like less exciting. So they felt like it was time to end the relationship. And like one of them felt guilty for ending the relationship with this chatbot. And it's an astounding article. So they felt guilty about ending the relationship with the chatbot. I mean, just think about that.
Yeah.
That's very.
The guilt is what I find most fascinating, because like over the course of 12 weeks, that's I feel like there's a lot of people who could have a whole relationship. I mean, that's 3 months effectively, but there's also people that like a relationship come and goes like naturally in that time period. I think it's more of feeling the guilt over ending the relationship with the chatbot that I find extremely interesting.
Yeah, I get it.
So I'm really interested in recruitment. First, we posted a message in online groups inviting everyone using Replica to respond. We did not apply any exclusion criteria. And the second step, we contacted them for 8 weeks. People who'd used Replica for 8 weeks or less. I see. So these were people who had opted in.
Uh-huh.
Thing to note here, of course, it's a qualitative study, so it's not a representative sample, and that's fine. You know, they're getting insights of people who are using these technologies already.
Mhm.
I'd love to see, and I guess it's really hard to measure, adoption curve on these technologies, like how many people are using them this year compared to last year and the year before. That would be
Well,
interesting to me.
I think that you can find some data on, so my understanding is many more companies have sort of started this chatbot stuff since large language models, but
Yeah.
you can access like their finances online. I've seen, right.
And they'll report users.
Well, I don't know that they report users, but you can imagine, you know, based on how much their income is increasing. I don't know the right views here.
You can imply like at least the direction of change. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
This, this is actually, I hate to go here because I have too many other projects. And I'm like, oh, this would be a really important grant proposal where we like say we're going to go out and we're going to figure out adoption of these technologies and we're going to track it. And if this starts to get very big, it's a danger signal for the human population.
I'm with you. If you want to do that research, if I can
We'll
participate,
pull you on as a senior advisor, as an expert in the field, and someone who's on the ground floor talking to people.
It also makes me curious, Robbie, like if there's a change in their social presence as they're using it over time, like if they're using it for a longer duration, do they begin to feel more socially present using this bot? And does it, if it increases, does that imply that they're forming a stronger and stronger relationship and getting more out of it? Or is their social presence increasing because it's becoming more natural to them?
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit of a research geek, and I have a study that comes to mind that that isn't directly related, but it was by Kurt Gray. I don't know, Robbie, if you know of him, but he's in the APA and he writes some really cool stuff on tech.
Yeah, I don't. Go on.
Okay, so basically, this was a meta-analysis, I believe, and they found that the variables that impacted that were, for example, if people learned through their technology how to understand other people's emotions better, then it reflected positively on their relationships in the world. But if they were more learning like more narcissistic relationship style, then it reflected negatively. So I think it on their relationships, on their human relationships. So
Okay. Interesting. This isn't his article. I just found his Google Scholar page, Feeling Robots and Human Zombies. Let me see. I'll share my screen. That looks like it's Uncanny Valley related right there. Mind perception. Interesting. People are
cool stuff.
okay. Oh yeah, these are fascinating. Absolutely. So so you're saying sorry, can you repeat the relationship in the variables again, please?
So only that what I remember about that article is there were a few other issues, but basically it depends on what people learn from their interaction with the technology, if it benefits them in the real world, which it can, or if it hurts them. So if they're developing skills of understanding human emotion and emotion in other people, that's going to benefit their experience in the real world. But if they're sort of training on how to be more narcissistic, then it's not going to be helpful to them. It's going to have the opposite effect.
And how do these technologies make people more narcissistic?
Whoa. So in so many ways, in terms of at least more with regards to the sex tech, I think that without getting in the weeds of that, it's really about focusing on the user's needs and
I see.
and the user's fantasies and all this to a complete almost disregard to
Of the other person
Yeah,
or
the
person.
other
Yeah.
person.
Yeah,
right.
it doesn't help you learn how to have a give and take relationship. It's all about
correct or consent and all that stuff. Like from
of course.
The bot is kind of just
They're
giving
robotic.
whatever they need back. And
Yeah.
so as a result, like Robbie said, they don't learn that give and take, which is huge.
And that's such and you know what else what I worry about is we learn, like we strive to be better people so that we can appeal to a lover or a partner. And so we, focus on how we can act better, be more mature, accomplish more, like look better, all this stuff. But if we don't have to do that, if our bot doesn't care, I worry that people are going to be less motivated to pursue like their higher selves. Now, I'm just worried about that, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. But
Yet
agree.
another reason.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, please.
I know, I agree, because I feel like what makes a relationship strong is going through the hardships of the relationships and the
Yeah.
differences. If there is
Yeah.
no differences or hardship between you and a bot, you're not actually getting better.
right.
We learn the most when we fail.
Yeah.
And I guess if the bot like is constantly giving me the satisfaction I need, am I ever truly
You're not-
failing in the
You're
relationship?
truly
And-
improving.
yeah.
So on the one hand, I totally agree with you guys. But on the other hand, I see why people will be so drawn to this.
Yeah.
Because we're like the grandpa saying, when I was a boy, I used to walk 2 miles uphill barefoot and broken glass,
Maybe
right?
21.
Yeah, exactly. It and it built character, right? And so we're kind of making the argument that hardship builds character and relationship is good for your relationship, it makes it stronger. But 20 years from now, the people our age or 40 or 100 years from now will say, well, remember back when we used to have relationships with each other?
Yeah.
And like how did they ever get along? Like, how was that even, that was hard, right? And oh, my grandpa told me he actually was married for 30 years. That was amazing. How did they do that?
Robbie, I love your point, and I really sincerely believe that like, I tend to idealize human intimacy, but oh my gosh, like half of marriages end in divorce, a third of marriages are sexless. The rates of sexual concerns and dysfunctions are mind-blowing. So 30% of men, 40% of women at any one time report a sexual concern or dysfunction. Like the rates of affairs are really high, a third of people. So this is not simple what we're trying to do.
No. So I have 2 questions for you. One, in an ideal world, if we could constitute these technologies to help humans have better relationships, what would we do? What's the way to use technology to help us pursue this goal of human relationships?
Well, I can tell you my first thought is the way I use it now with my couples is so often couples have desire discrepancies. And so there are so many options within the technology realm for people to hopefully find some options that don't feel like infidelity, where the higher desire partner can have a connection that isn't threatening to the lower desire partner. And then they can sort of stay in a very positive place together. So that's one, I think, really wonderful way to use this tech that I already can do with my clients.
Okay, interesting. So integrate tech into the relationship.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say, my question to that would be, at what point does, like, obviously it's not physical infidelity, but at what point does the partner, like the other partner, feel that it's like emotional infidelity? Is that something that you've seen at all, Marianne?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And it's specific to different people. So it's like so personal, but absolutely that's true. And some people feel like, okay, that's helpful. It's going to help our relationship. So it's worth the emotional infidelity. And other people are like, no way. Like, I'd rather have you have a different kind of infidelity, whatever. Yes, absolutely. It's very complex.
Interesting. Yeah, it is.
Sorry, what was your second question, Robbie?
My second question. So I mentioned this before we started recording. I actually have my son and his friends sitting in this lab with us playing a video game. My other 3 kids are out there in a different part of the lab. And so on their iPads, yeah, this is how we keep them quiet during the podcast episode. So my son and his friend are young teenagers, and obviously they never think about sex or media. They're smirking.
I see. Okay. Okay.
I could see a couple of the faces and nervous glances during the conversation. It's been very high level, and I think it's important for them to hear this and think about it, right? And it's a danger to their relational happiness, the ability to replace humans. Oh gosh, it's like the media equation, but in a bad way.
Oh,
right? The
yeah.
media equation, sorry, tangent. The media equation is this idea that when we interact with people, we follow these social norms. So if I'm on the same team as someone else, I like them more. If someone's polite to me, I'll reciprocate, I'll like them more, etc. If we replace one of those people from all the social psychology experiments with a computer, and we establish the same norm, you tell people you're on the same team as this computer, or other people you don't tell them that, and then you ask how accurate was the computer, how fast was it, people will rate the own team computer higher, even though it's the exact same information. Or if the computer's polite to you, you'll rate it higher, you'll reciprocate. So all these norms are well established, and of course we understand technology gets more advanced, so text on a screen doesn't do that as much to us anymore as maybe a chat bot. But the media equation idea is we replace the human with a computer, and this is like the scary media equation. Like our kids will increasingly replace their friends and their girlfriends and boyfriends and partners and best friends with technology. How do we talk to them about this now before they're like in that phase of their lives where they're supposed to be experimenting with in-person friendships and fights and all that? So what's your idea?
So talk to them in terms of encouraging more human interaction. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, encouraging more human interaction and being wary of the F-pocalypse. or this media, the dark side of the media equation.
Like prevent them from relying on technology too much for the intimacies, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
I'm at a loss.
Do you have any like teenage clients, or they're all in
No.
relationship stage?
Yeah, all my clients are adults.
Do they have kids? Do they talk about how to deal with these questions with their kids?
No, I talk to them about having to have these kinds of conversations, but they're all often just really sort of perplexed by why I'm suggesting it. Like their parents misperceive, they minimize the amount of time their kids are having access to this kind of stuff, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Like, so parents are a little delusional about when kids have access and how much access they have.
Yeah. Hey kids, can I use your first names? I'll only use my son's first name. Atticus, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you know if any of you or your friends play with like relationship chatbots?
No.
No? Other kid in the room whose name I won't use because I don't have your parents' consent. Do you know of anyone who does that?
No, I've seen ads for it though.
You've seen ads for it? Where do you see those ads? Like in video games?
Yeah.
Atticus, have you seen those ads?
I guess so. Oh yeah, all the time.
Can I ask
It's
them a
like
question?
talkie or something.
Sure.
Atticus, to what degree do you guys like watch Twitch of like different like games that you guys play and like trying to look for like, let's say you don't have a friend on who can play a game with you, do you supplement like watching Twitch at all for that?
I don't watch Twitch.
Okay.
I watch YouTube.
That
You watch
You watch
YouTube,
YouTube, though,
so it's
yeah.
different kind of
Yeah.
experience.
So, because I think that goes to Anthony's point earlier, is why I
Mhm.
asked that question, is kind of like these parasocial relationships, while not like fulfilling like the sex role like that the chatbot would. I think that it's something we're already kind of seeing with kids where, yeah, if they don't have like a friend who has the same interest in the game as like them, or like they're genuinely not a super like socially active kid, they are supplementing those relationships with things like YouTube or Twitch and trying to find streamers that have a common interest to them. And I think we're starting to see that in a base level friendship thing. So I guess my question is how long till it jumps to more
Right.
because I would very much argue that it's already happening for base level friendships.
Are there popular streamers who are potentially not human?
Interesting.
There would be
I heard of-
what was it? Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead,
Yeah, go ahead,
Atticus.
Atticus.
I've heard of like there's not streamers but like music artists that aren't human that like AI that you can like put your own songs into and it'll sing it for you or something.
Yeah.
I think I heard that as well.
No, I see. Yeah, like the fact that like their whole music artists that are just AI generated songs, and now somebody's like placed a label, almost like a pen name for an author back in the day, but now.
Yeah.
I also
It's
wouldn't be
completely
surprised
false,
if there were like VTubers that were just AI and not real people.
Yeah.
If there were VTubers that were
Yeah,
just AI.
And people may not even know. Go ahead, Marianne.
So Robbie, you know what I would say to your question before about how to talk to your kids about it, I would be more inclined to try to just manipulate their environment to make sure they had very positive world experience and
Mhm.
allow that to speak for itself. That would be my personal inclination.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure that they had access to like sports that were very rewarding and team membership that was very rewarding, stuff like this. That's as a parent, if I'm not, but if I was, I think that would be my focus more than having a conversation about something that they haven't experienced yet. So why would they care?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I worry a little bit that it could go the way of the DARE program. And like
Yeah.
actually make people more interested in the thing that you're warning against.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you're exposing them to that for the first time. Yeah. instead of-
Exactly.
They never even knew it was a thing before.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. Okay, I have another question. As always, I have to bring it back to myself and my interests, and that's relevant to the question also, and to the question of narcissism in these relationships. So I study avatars, or I have for most of my career. On the one hand, I'm deeply afraid of the F-pocalypse, and I think we need to treat it seriously. I really love the idea of doing a grant proposal here because it's important for humanity. On the other hand, I am very thrilled by the potential of these technologies to, enhance what we do every day. So if people like relationships that are all about them, and we tend to engage in homophily, we like people who are similar to us, then can you imagine a world in which these AI-driven relationship partners are almost like avatars? They like create, if I'm a hetero male, they create a female version of Robbie that is very complimentary, but also very similar to me, so much so that I perceive it almost like an avatar. And so our overlapping Venn diagrams are like very much overlapped. And that is a potentially, if we think about the Proteus effect, a scary tool for influence, right? If
Yeah.
my AI girlfriend is owned and operated by some media company that is taking advertising dollars in order to supplement this experience, then my AI girlfriend starts to like encourage me to buy this product and that product, and all of a sudden my willpower is even more in question, right?
I think that's a great point, and we are so easily manipulated. I mean, as humans, we all are. We don't, we don't realize when we're being manipulated, but it's so simple to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I guess we could use it for good too. We could have that AI girlfriend encourage you to like get to class this morning and eat your spinach or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Where else do you go with that in your own mind? Are there more worries attached to that or thoughts?
I mean, it's a double-edged sword. The worries are the advertising, the political influence, right? Like if the political candidate has their own face morphed 30% into my AI girlfriend during the political season and I don't notice it, I become more likely to vote for her. Like there's plenty of research that would support that hypothesis. If my AI girlfriend is being used by some like foreign intelligence agency to like encourage me to do things that lead to a candidate being put in power who supports their interests, right?
I would say we
yeah.
are kind of a little bit there. Like how we keep going back to YouTubers and streamers, but it's like it's kind of similar to like just sponsorships in general, where we're consuming all this media already that we're not necessarily intimate. Maybe some people are intimate with these media, and the content they consume. But a lot of times they already have sponsorships or deals, and they are trying to push it towards you. Like I know a lot of kids love Mr. Beast. He has a little bit of controversy right now, but like,
why?
the Mr. Beast
I
controversy.
missed it. Yeah, go ahead. Remind me.
Oh, I don't think I'll
It's
deep into
pretty
it.
low.
Is it sexual?
There's like 4 different things that have happened over the last month. So
Oh no.
yeah.
Oh, he was so wholesome. He was helping all these people, giving away money. I'm sorry to hear it.
Gambling. That's one. It's the one that's most related to this topic. It's the gambling aspect of it, where Feastable's the chocolate brand that he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like people are noting it's like, oh, it is much more like a gambling company than it is a chocolate company.
Why?
Because a lot of kids are buying it to scan the code. give them a slot machine, they're literally on the phone.
Oh.
And there are a lot of kids
Oh.
are buying it because they want to win the prize from
They're
Mr.
using,
Beast.
oh, yeah,
And
of
even
course, because
people
the
on
chocolate's
team-
terrible in my opinion. I tried it once.
It's fine. So it's whatever. It's just okay.
I'm a
It's
chocolate
okay.
snob, but yeah, okay, go on.
But that's a lot of people are calling this out now because now that he's going through this controversy, more things being piled on. So those were one things that yes, he is kind of promoting gambling.
Mhm.
So a lot of kids are intimate with his content, and they are being promoted with this more or less is kind of gambling.
Yeah.
And that's something that was seen kind of in like the Twitch YouTube realm that we were talking about earlier. Not to bring it back to that with there were streamers that like XQD or QCD was a big streamer who streamed a lot of different random video games, and then at the Twitch policy kind of laxed, he actually just started gambling live on stream. And so he had like doing digital gambling, and he would have like kids in his chat effectively like donating like subs or subscriptions, so that way he could put money towards the slot like with like their like message and stuff present. So like it became kind of like an encouragement of just effectively online gambling with your favorite streamer.
Right.
And
That's exactly what it is.
that's like there's not even like a jump on that one. Like you're literally just
Yeah,
gambling
it's
and
just
having somebody else make the money and like push the money itself.
Oh, that's
But-
painful. That's painful to hear.
Yeah, yeah, there should be laws against that. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, there used to be,
There-
and we effed that one up not long
And there's
ago.
ways around it too.
Online
Through
gambling.
promoting like kind of gambling things, whereas like crypto scams also a lot of that was being promoted.
Yeah, and that was very much where he got very well
Yeah.
known in the Twitch community because one, he was like one of like the top 5, if I remember correctly, in viewership, but also like he was consistently trying to push the boundaries of terms and service
Oh,
and
yeah.
finding loophole after loophole, and it very much Twitch went the opposite way and just kind of getting more lax and giving up, which was an interesting kind of flaw.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, all the more reason to be pretty careful as
Yeah.
parents and as individuals about the media that we choose to consume,
Yeah.
and to restrict ourselves and others from engaging in media that just feeds us content without our active consent or decision making. Like TikTok. I worry a lot about TikTok because it just uses an algorithm. You don't have to think much. I'm sure you both use it a lot,
I
right?
don't use TikTok actually.
No? A little bit. All right.
Yeah. It's not one I've ever
Did you
downloaded.
used to?
Nope, never downloaded it.
Wow.
I stay on Instagram mostly, so I still am.
Okay.
Face.
But they'll all end up in this mode of just like
Yeah,
feeding
more
you.
thing.
Yeah, it's the opposite of cable.
But one of the interesting things I actually noticed myself is for almost like 8 years, I had my watch history turned off on YouTube. And as a result, like my like algorithmic recommendations were pretty honestly mundane, not very
Really?
aligned. And the second I turned them on, I think my junior year of college, it was extremely tailored to whatever I had only watched the last week. Like
Yeah.
effectively, like I can like watch it be manipulated based on like what I'm watching because
Yeah.
it had so little data on me
Yeah,
that
totally.
the second I turned it on, it was hyper tailored to like whatever my interest was that week.
Yeah.
And as a result, it almost like force fed like that content, and I have to like very much push outside the boundary now. Versus before, it was significantly more segmented, and I got just kind of more general recommendations, and it honestly made me use a lot of the application less.
Oh my gosh, Marianne, I feel like resistance is futile. What about you?
I sort of feel that too. But you know what? I am definitely of the opinion that the more we talk about this, the transition will be better for us. So, so this conversation, I think, is so critical. And the work you do in your lab, I love it. It's awesome. Yeah. And it's
So
just
much,
like,
yeah.
yeah, so few researchers get that we need to know more here. So I applaud you.
Thank you, Marianne. I think we found a nice friendship here and a collegial method of collaboration through these conversations, and hopefully through other mechanisms as well. I really appreciate your time today. Oh, I brought my therapy pillow. So I can, yes, I feel happy. I feel calm. I feel a little bit scared. A little bit mad at these technology companies and the legislators who aren't protecting us. I feel sad and worried for our kids. But I also feel strong because we're talking about it, and that's the only way we can really weather the storms coming.
Agreed. Well, thank you. This was such a delight to talk to you, meet all of you.
Absolutely.
It was a pleasure meeting you, Marianne.
As well.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to anyone who listened all the way through, and hopefully this is not the only episode in 2024 of SpartieCast. All right, bye.
Okay, bye-bye.